She promised me forever. And then I caught her cheating with some random guy. So I exposed her, blocked her everywhere. Now she's the one begging. My name's Evan, I'm 32, and I design offshore wind turbines for a living. Not exactly a party trick career, but I literally work with invisible forces that power entire cities. Funny how I didn't notice the invisible forces inside my own home. 3 years ago, I met Lena at a sustainability conference in Seattle's Harbor Convention Center. I was giving a talk about optimizing coastal wind energy. Yeah, super thrilling stuff. And she sat in the third row sketching vines and wildflowers inside a worn leather notebook, while everyone else tried not to fall asleep. Lena was a botanical illustrator for the Whitmore Conservatory, one of those people who can turn a dying succulent into a Renaissance painting. She was 29, always with her chestnut hair in a messy bun, ink smudges on her fingers, and a pencil tucked behind her ear. We clicked instantly. She got my engineering brain. I soaked up her artist soul. It sounds like a cheesy rom-com script, but it worked. She sketched turbine blades while I calculated soil pH for her greenhouse plants. Last year, we moved in together, bought this old Victorian townhouse that needed serious work. I installed solar panels on the roof. She turned the backyard into something out of a fairy tale. We didn't just have dreams, we had plans. Real ones. Joint savings account labeled. Wedding/house/future. Her grandma's sapphire ring hidden in my sock drawer. We even picked baby names. Oliver for a boy, Luna for a girl. Last month, I installed soft LED lights under the kitchen cabinets because she said it would make winter mornings warmer when we have kids. God, I believed every word. The changes started small. Then October hit, and suddenly the conservatory needed her for evening installations. At first, it made sense. They were preparing a huge exhibit of local flora. She was the lead illustrator. Big career milestone. I supported her, made her protein smoothies for long nights, picked up her dry cleaning. But then the pattern shifted. Phone flipped face down at dinner. Long showers. Sudden flinches when a notification buzzed. Emergency at the conservatory, she said last Tuesday, rushing out at 8 p.m. New specimens had arrived damaged. She had to document them fast. Want to come help? I offered. No, babe, it's boring plant stuff. I'll be late. Don't wait up. Kiss on the forehead. Door shuts. Engine fades down our street. The thing about being an engineer is we troubleshoot for a living. When something feels off, you check the data. So when my gut started sending error codes, I didn't ignore them. But I didn't accuse her either. Not yet. Tonight, she said there was a downtown botanical seminar. Makes sense, except she'd never mentioned it before. And she wore that green backless dress she bought for my company's summer gala. You look incredible, I told her. It's just networking, she laughed. But her hand went straight to her necklace. Her nervous tell. She left. I tried working on load calculations for a new turbine design, but I couldn't focus. Then I saw her seminar badge still lying on the hallway table. The same badge she said she needed. I drove downtown to drop it off like a supportive boyfriend. Only the conference center was dark, parking lot empty. But her silver Honda was parked across the street, outside the Meridian, an upscale bar on Fifth. I killed the engine and waited. 20 minutes later, Lena walked out laughing with a guy who definitely wasn't discussing plants. Tall, skinny man bun, vintage camera bag, the kind of guy who shoots film because digital lacks soul. His hand rested on her lower back. My spot, the place I rubbed for her every Sunday while we watched nature documentaries. They stood under the neon glow of the bar sign, drenched in blue. She laughed, that laugh, the one she usually saved for my terrible engineering jokes. I gripped the steering wheel as they walked to her Honda. She fumbled for the keys. She'd been drinking. He took them from her, their fingers touching longer than necessary. He walked around and slid into the passenger seat. My instinct said, follow. My brain said, document. I started the engine and kept 3 cars behind her as she drove through downtown. Not toward home, not toward the conservatory. She took Highway 47 East into the industrial district. Nothing out there except abandoned lots and weeds pushing through cracked asphalt. 17 minutes later, she pulled into the Starlight Motor Lodge, one of those places with hourly rates and a flickering sign that looks like it hasn't worked since the 90s. She parked next to room 214. They got out. He grabbed a bottle of Malbec from her back seat, the same bottle I brought home from a wind farm inspection trip in Argentina. I parked behind a delivery truck and popped my trunk. Inside was my drone, the one I used to inspect turbine blades. 4K camera, thermal mode, 45 minutes of flight time. I launched it from behind the truck, keeping it high enough to avoid the light pollution from the parking lot. They didn't go into the room right away. They stopped at the door. She leaned against it, his hands on either side of her head, and they kissed like teenagers while she fumbled with the key card. I recorded everything. Timestamps, GPS coordinates, the way she pulled him inside by his shirt, the door slamming. 47 minutes. That's how long I sat in my car while the drone hovered on autopilot, filming the shut door. 47 minutes counting every lie, every late night at work, every "I'm so tired, babe," every future we planned that was now collapsing inside a motel room with probably questionable sheets. The door opened. She stepped out first, adjusting her dress. Her hair looked different, Messier in that very specific way. She was wearing the jade earrings I bought her for our anniversary, the ones I found in an antique shop in Burlington, because the color matched her eyes. The man bun followed her, shirt untucked, checking his phone. They kissed again, not passionate this time. Casual, familiar, the kind of kiss you don't share with someone for the first time. I recalled the drone, packed it up, and followed him back toward the bar district. She dropped him at his beat-up Subaru, complete with a bumper sticker supporting some local art collective. More kisses, more unspoken promises I could read in their body language. When he drove off, she sat in her car for a few minutes, probably fixing herself up. Then she headed home. I gave her a 20-minute head start. When I walked through the door, she was already in the shower. Her dress was thrown into the laundry basket, not hung neatly like she always did. Her phone was face down on the nightstand, plugged in. "Hey, babe," she called out. "How was your evening?" "Productive," I said, uploading the drone footage to my encrypted drive. "Got a lot of work done." She came out wearing my old MIT hoodie, hair wrapped in a towel. Looked exactly like the woman I fell in love with, until she kissed my cheek, smelling different, not like soil and greenery from the conservatory. Something synthetic, someone else's cologne clinging to her skin. "The seminar was boring," she said, crawling into bed. "You didn't miss anything." I figured. I replied, backing up the files 3 different ways. "Putting in extra hours?" "Yeah." She laughed, scrolled on her phone for a minute, then turned off the light. "Love you." I said, staring at the jade earrings now sitting on her nightstand. Within minutes she was asleep, breathing evenly. I sat at my laptop in the dark kitchen, the LED lights glowing softly. The same ones I installed for the cozy winter mornings we were supposed to share with kids we'd never have. Time for step one. I needed professional help. Not therapy. Evidence. My friend Daniel went through a brutal divorce last year. His ex-wife had assets across 3 states. He once told me his private investigator was expensive, but he found things lawyers couldn't touch. I texted Daniel. Need that PI's number. Confidential. He replied at 6 a.m. Got you, man. Just called him. Expect a message. By noon, I was sitting across from Wallace Reeves in a tiny office wedged between a nail salon and a dry cleaner. 15 years as a financial crimes detective before he went private. Looked like someone's grandpa until you noticed how his eyes scanned everything like a database. Infidelity case? He asked before I even sat down. How do you know? You've got a tan line where a ring used to be. You look like you haven't slept. And you texted Dan at 3:47 this morning. He opened a notebook. What do you need? Everything, I said. Timeline, finances, communication, anything you can get legally. Legally is a flexible word, Wallace murmured. But I stay within what will hold up in court, Wallace said. $5,000. Up front. Another 5 if things get complicated. I wrote the check from my personal account, not our joint one. 2 weeks. That's all Wallace needed. The file he gave me was 60 pages thick, annotated, indexed, cross-referenced. Instagram posts. Deleted texts pulled from cloud backups. Credit card statements. GPS logs. The affair started in July. At first, it was just coffee after photo shoots. Then lunches. By August, they were meeting in motels twice a week. She paid for the rooms with a credit card I didn't even know she had. One opened solely in her name. Statements forwarded to her conservatory office. And then came the twist. She wasn't paying Bryce for photography. The conservatory already covered that. She paid him personally. $500 here. $750 there. Almost $8,000 in total. His Venmo was public. Of course it was, because he needed it for commissions. Leaf emoji. Camera emoji. New lens emoji. The deleted messages were worse than the money. Evan's at a conference this weekend. Come over. Your roommate is starting to catch on. When are you moving out? Just roommates, right? Nothing more. Roommate. That's what she reduced me to. A man who was about to propose with her grandmother's sapphire ring was just a roommate. Wallace had screenshots of everything. The parts where she told Bryce I was jealous, controlling, that she needed her own place, that she only moved in with me because rent was too expensive. And that's not all, Wallace said, sliding another folder across the desk. Our joint savings. $11,000 had been transferred out in small amounts over 4 months. Not to her personal account. Too obvious. But to an investment account she opened with her sister Delia listed as co-owner. Her sister helped, Wallace explained. Built the alibi. Those girls' nights out? Check the timestamps. He pointed to Delia's Instagram stories. Wine nights, girls' trips. While Lena's phone GPS pinged the Starlight Motor Lodge 14 separate times. Want to keep digging? Wallace asked. No, that's enough. I'll take it from here. I drove to the conservatory and parked where I could see the loading dock. Waited until Bryce's Subaru pulled in for another photo shoot session. Then I went home and opened Lena's laptop. Her password was still Monstera 2021, her favorite plant. In her drafts was an email to her supervisor. I'm thrilled to accept the senior illustrator position. The exhibit opening is the perfect time for the announcement. My family is already planning to attend November 15th, a promotion party. Her whole family, the conservatory board, colleagues, everyone who believed she was devoted, talented, trustworthy. I forwarded the email to myself and kept digging. At the bottom of her sent folder was the most recent message to Bryce. I can't wait until we don't have to hide anymore. After the promotion, I'll tell Evan everything. He deserves to know I'm leaving. She planned to blindside me in her moment of triumph. For the first time in 2 weeks, I smiled. November 15th came fast. I played the perfect boyfriend for 2 weeks. Made her breakfast, asked about work, bought her flowers for no reason. I watched the guilt flicker across her face before she kissed me and told me I was sweet. The promotion dinner was booked at Verdant, one of those farm-to-table luxury spots where half the menu is grown on the rooftop garden. Private dining room, exposed brick, Edison bulbs, eco-chic aesthetic everywhere. Lena spent the whole week obsessing, trying dresses, rehearsing her speech. "You'll be there, right?" she asked that morning, applying mascara in our bathroom. "Wouldn't miss it," I said, tightening the tie she bought me last Christmas. Everything was ready. My friend Ron ran the AV system at Verdant. We'd gone to engineering school together, and Ron still owed me for helping him design his home solar setup. One favor, that's all I needed. "Which USB port?" he asked while I walked him through Verdant's AV system in the private dining room. "When I text you," I said, "swap the presentation file." "What's on it?" "The truth." I arrived at Verdant at 7:15 p.m., 15 minutes after the party started. Lena was glowing, champagne in hand, mingling with guests near a living wall installation. Her face lit up when she saw me. "This is all thanks to Evan," she said, looping her arm through mine. "My partner. Not roommate. Partner." She delivered the performance of her life. I shook hands, talked about renewable energy, charmed her mom asking about the restaurant's hydroponic setup. Her dad clapped me on the back, saying he was glad Lena had found one of the good ones. At 7:45, the conservatory director, Mrs. Hawthorne, tapped her glass. "If everyone could take their seats, we have a special presentation." 40 people settled around the long farm-style table. Lena at the head. I was on her right, her parents beside us. The projector screen descended from the ceiling. "Before we celebrate Lena's promotion to senior illustrator," Mrs. Hawthorne began, "let's showcase her incredible work." The first slides were Lena's botanical illustrations. Honestly, stunning. Native wildflowers, endangered ferns, precise cross-sections of seed pods. The room hummed with admiration. Lena squeezed my hand under the table. And now, Lena's collaborative work with our photographer, Bryce Hoffman. I sent Ron the message. The screen flickered. Instead of a botanical photo, the first image was a screenshot with a timestamp. Lena entering room 214 at the Starlight Motor Lodge. Date, time, GPS coordinates. Silence fell like a dropped glass. Next slide. A credit card charge. Starlight Motor Lodge. $67.99. Billed to her secret card. Next slide. A deleted text. SH*T. Evans at conservatory. I'll book the room. Lena's hand clamped onto mine. Someone gasped, "Her mother, I think." The slides kept going. Venmo payments to Bryce. Deleted messages calling me her controlling roommate. The investment account opened with stolen money from our wedding fund. Each slide stayed up for exactly 5 seconds, long enough to read, long enough to understand. Mrs. Hawthorne fumbled with the remote, but Ron had locked the system. The final slide was an email. After the promotion, I'll tell Evan everything. He deserves to know I'm leaving. Then a black screen. White text. He knows. Lights came back on. Lena's face went from confused to terrified to completely drained of color. Her father was standing now, fist tight. Her mother covered her mouth. The conservatory board stared between Lena and Mrs. Hawthorne like they were watching a slow-motion disaster. I stood, adjusted my tie. Congratulations on the promotion, Lena. I set down my champagne flute gently. No yelling, no theatrics. I simply walked toward the door, 40 pairs of eyes following me. Evan, her voice cracked. Evan, wait, I stopped halfway to the exit and turned back. Your grandmother's ring is in the kitchen drawer. I figured you want it back. Her face buckled. She understood. I had been planning to propose. The room seemed to fold in on her. I stepped into the cold November air, got into my car, and drove 3 blocks before pulling over to breathe. My phone exploded, calls, texts, all from Lena. I blocked her number. Then another notification pinged. An email from Mrs. Hawthorne. Mr. Sanders, we need to discuss Ms. Morrison's future with conservatory immediately. Please respond at your earliest convenience. I took my time. Let them stew overnight. I had more urgent things to handle. By the time I got home, Lena had called 17 times from her parents' phones, her sister Delia's phone, even the restaurant's landline. The doorbell rang at 11:30 p.m. Through the security camera, I saw her standing on the porch, makeup streaked, still wearing her promotion night dress. Evan, please, let me explain. It's not what it looks like. It was exactly what it looked like. I turned off the porch light and went upstairs. She stayed out there until 2 a.m. The next morning, I finally replied to Mrs. Hawthorne. I have documentation of misappropriated conservatory funds. Willing to discuss. She responded immediately. Can you meet today? The conservatory conference room smelled like potting soil and dread. Mrs. Hawthorne, 2 board members, and their legal counsel sat across from me. I slid Wallace's dossier across the table, keeping a copy for myself. Page 18, I said. She laundered personal payments to Bryce as photography supplies reimbursed by the conservatory. $8,000, straight to her boyfriend. The lawyer turned pale. Mrs. Hawthorne looked like she aged 5 years overnight. We'll need time to review this, she said. Take all you need. I had already filed a report with the state nonprofit oversight board. That same day, Lena was placed on leave. Bryce's contract was terminated immediately. Then came the flood, messages from anonymous numbers, emails to my work inbox, even a handwritten letter tucked under my windshield wiper. All variations of, it meant nothing. I choose you. We can fix this. Then she sent a video. 20 minutes of Lena in her car, crying, confessing everything, insisting Bryce manipulated her, insisting she was planning to end it. Layer upon layer of lies, delivered with such conviction, she almost sounded like she believed them. I forwarded the video to my attorney. Yes, I hired an attorney. 3 days after promotion party, she showed up at 6 a.m. This time she didn't ring the bell, just sat on the porch. When I stepped out for my morning run, she looked wrecked, unwashed hair, sweatpants, one of my old wind farm project T-shirts she must have taken. Just 5 minutes, she said. 5 minutes, she said, voice shaking. Then I'll never bother you again. Please, Evan. I threw everything away for nothing. He meant nothing. You have to believe me. I didn't have to do anything. I jogged past her and ran my usual route. By the time I got back, she was gone, but she'd left a box. Every photo, every ticket stub, every tiny scrap from our 3 years together, as if returning the memories would somehow reset reality. I tossed the box into recycling. That evening, Wallace called. Your ex is desperate. She hired her own PI to dig up dirt on you. Let him dig, I said. I've got nothing to hide. And the fun part? She'd been calling Bryce nonstop. He blocked her too. Turns out Bryce had a real girlfriend, a ceramic artist named Astrid, who lived with him for 2 years. Lena was his side project. Day 5, I got the official letter. The conservatory terminated Lena for financial misconduct and ethics violations. She was also being investigated for fraud. Her career in botanical illustration was over, permanently. Our joint account was frozen pending my civil claim. The investment account she opened with her sister Delia was now under review. Delia had her own crisis. Apparently her husband had no idea she'd helped Lena hide the affair. Lena's world collapsed in real time. I watched it from a distance. Her LinkedIn vanished. Her Instagram went private. The conservatory scrubbed her name like she'd never existed. A week after the promotion party, she played her last card. A court officer delivered papers to my office. Lena challenged the financial claims, insisting the transfers were gifts between partners. Her attorney also threatened a defamation suit for malicious exposure of private information. She wanted to fight. I looked at the paperwork. Then at my phone, another email from Mrs. Hawthorne. Charges of fraud have been filed. You will be called as a witness. Lena had no idea what she was in for. The legal process moved fast. Her attorney dropped the lawsuit the moment he saw the evidence. Hard to argue defamation when everything presented was time-stamped, documented fact. Even harder to claim gifts when a forensic audit showed she falsified expense reports. The judge's ruling came in February. Lena owed me $47,000, stolen savings plus damages. The conservatory's criminal case was being handled separately, but my testimony was thorough and airtight. She had 30 days to pay. She didn't have the money. I knew, because I quietly heard through mutual contacts that things kept getting worse. After the conservatory firing, no botanical institution would touch her. Her references were toxic. She applied to 23 jobs, according to a former colleague who reached out to warn me how fast she was sinking. By March, she was working at Garden Grove Nursery off Highway 9, selling fertilizer to weekend gardeners. Her career in illustration had reduced to explaining soil brands. 6 months after the promotion party, I was at a cafe reviewing turbine specs for an offshore expansion project. The door chimed. There she was, Lena, wearing a Garden Grove polo, dark circles under her eyes, looking years older. She froze when she saw me, then approached slowly, like I was a wild animal. Can I sit? I should have walked away. Instead, I pointed at the empty chair. You look good, she said softly. Different, defeated, new project. Yeah, offshore expansion. She stared at her hands. I ruined everything. Bryce disappeared as soon as things got bad. Blocked me everywhere. His girlfriend kicked him out. He blamed me for ruining his life. Not my problem, I said. I know. She finally looked up. I know what I did was unforgivable. The money, the lies, all of it. But Evan, We had something real once, didn't we? I'm engaged. The words hung in the air like a dropped anchor. Her face twisted through several emotions at once. I showed her a photo on my phone, me and Astrid, at a ribbon-cutting ceremony at a wind farm last month. The ring on her hand wasn't flashy, but perfect. And she was perfect. A renewable energy project lead who understood my work, understood honesty. Astrid, as in Bryce's ex. Lena whispered, "Small world." 3 weeks after the promotion party, I said, "We got engaged last month." Her eyes filled with tears. "You moved on so fast." "I moved on the night I saw you at that motel," I said. "Everything after that was just paperwork." She pulled out a wrinkled envelope. "The first payment, $3,000. It's all I've managed working retail. Send it to your lawyer." Then, barely audible, "Evan, please." I made one mistake. One, try 4 months of choices. 4 months of lies. 4 months of stealing our future to finance your affair. I loved you. No, you loved the stability I gave you while you chased something else. She broke then, no theatrics, just quiet tears falling onto the cafe table. "What do I do now?" she whispered. "Learn, grow, become better for the next person." I stood up, but that person isn't me. I walked to the door, then turned back. The wedding's in October. Don't expect an invitation. 2 weeks later, an envelope came. Our wedding invitation. Astrid insisted we send one to everyone, even Lena. "Closure," she said. "A clear message that life moves on." Lena sent one last message from an unknown number. "I'll regret this for the rest of my life." I didn't reply. Astrid and I were married in October at the wind farm, where we had our first real conversation about trust, integrity, and building something sustainable. Lena's Winter Garden illustration book stayed in a donation box in our garage. Last I heard, she still lived near Garden Grove, still making monthly payments she owed me, still alone. Some people think revenge needs to be loud, explosive, but the best revenge is quiet success. Building the life you deserve while they watch theirs collapse under the weight of their own choices. Some people keep watering dead plants, hoping they'll bloom again. I learned to plant new seeds.